It is immensely well-precedented in scientific history for companies that are making short-term profits to do really sad amounts of damage, vastly disproportionate to the profit that they are making, and to be in apparently sincere denial about the negative effects of what they are doing. The cigarette companies did way more damage to human life in cancer and other health effects than they made in profits. They did make a few $1 billion in profit selling cigarettes, but nothing remotely compared to the cost of human life. This was an immensely negative sum game. They were doing enormously more damage than the profits that they were making. And any particular advertising professional who got up in the morning and figured out how to market cigarettes to teenagers, any of the scientists that they paid to write stories about how you couldn't really tell whether or not cigarettes were causing lung cancer, would have made a tiny, tiny fraction of the total profit of the cigarette companies. Their CEO would not have made that larger fraction of the total profit of the cigarette company. So they went off and participated in this thing that caused lung cancer to I don't know how many millions of people. And for what? For this very small profit. How could a human being bring themselves to do that? Through a very simple alchemy. First, you convince yourself that what you're doing is not causing the harm, which is just a very easy thing for human beings to do. And then once you've convinced yourself that you're not doing that much harm, well, what's the harm in taking money to not do any harm? Ronald Fisher, one of the inventors of modern scientific statistics, testified against it being knowable that cigarettes cause lung cancer because no proper controlled experiment had been done on cigarettes causing lung cancer. And so how could you possibly know from your observational studies showing 20 times the chance of cancer if you were a smoker? How could you possibly know from your correlational studies? And Fisher himself was a heavy smoker. He drank his own Kool-Aid. They really managed to convince themselves that they were doing no harm. And so they could do arbitrarily vast amounts of harm in exchange for these comparatively tiny, tiny profits. To ask why the people being paid literally hundreds of millions of dollars to be AI researchers, why people like Sam Altman, who was supposed to be CEO of a nonprofit, he actually stole billions of dollars. How does he manage to convince himself that what he's doing is okay? Maybe he's just like, yeah, sure, the world's going to end, but I get to be important. I get to be there. Who but I could be trusted with this power? To ask the question of how could these companies possibly believe that this thing bringing them immense short-term profits and letting them be the most important guy in the room is not going to end the world is something enormously well-precedented in the history of science.